The Saturday Morning Snap is a one-stop fantasy shop, bringing weekly news and advice in under an hour. I'm Mackenzie Tout, joined by Landon Monula. Welcome to the podcast. We are back with some fantasy goodness, live on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, or however you may be listening. We want to welcome you into the show. It is Saturday, October 27th, and this is, funny enough, the 27th episode of the Saturday Morning Snap Fantasy Football Podcast, joined by my awesome co-host, Landon. How you doing today, my friend?
It feels like the 27th time we've tried to record this morning.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, I just want to walk away and say, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
No, man, we can't wait to talk about some DFS this episode. It's been a while since we've talked about it, yet we've played every week. I've done some research. I've talked a little bit about, or I guess I will talk about some ownership percentages. Either way, I'm having a good Saturday morning. How was your week, Mackenzie?
Stressful week, busy week. Parent-teacher interviews with a bunch of parents that I've only known their kids for like 2 weeks, so that was interesting. But you know, it's been a good week. Busy, flies by quick. But here we are, Saturday morning, getting into some DraftKings, which I'm super excited about as well because we haven't done it since week one. And when we did it week one, I had a really good chance to win some big cashish. Ended up getting like $120 off my 20 in the Millionaire Maker. And I'm giving it another go this week. So hopefully it's just some coincidental good luck that when we feature some stuff on the pod, we get the listeners some money.
Absolutely. Are you doing anything for Halloween this weekend?
Yeah, we're going to a Halloween party tonight. It's a 70s themed. So apparently disco is quite popular. We had to pivot and go with the hippie theme, my wife and I.
Of course.
But I saw a funny little costume that you and Drewby had last night. Give us a little insight on that.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I, she's a big Office fan, and she wanted to be. We had tons of options. We were trying to decide what we're going to be for Halloween, but I think, to be honest, it was always ever going to be Dwight Schrute. She was Dwight, and I was Cousin Mose. Yeah, so and another superstar rolled into on Thursday night with a Schrute Farms sweater. Who was that? That was your boy JJ Watt.
That was JJ Watt. That's correct. What's the little slogan that goes with the sweater? It's Beats.
Yeah. What is it? Beats Battlestar Galactica. Oh shoot, I had it earlier.
Something else.
Yeah, I don't even know anymore.
We are on Instagram at Saturday Morning Snap. We're also on Twitter at Landon_SMS and Mack_SMS. Landon, you should tweet that picture of you and Drew. It's hilarious.
You're right. I absolutely should. Sorry, Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. I'm a terrible Office fan. I should have known that.
Boo. Jumping into some news and notes this week, I want to start with the remnants of the Thursday night game. Texans, end of the game, suffering maybe a potentially big blow to their season. The Houston Chronicle had come out and reported that the Texans had feared that Will Fuller suffered a torn ACL in Thursday's win over the Dolphins. Happened at the end of the game. When I wrote this yesterday morning in preparation for this show, it was just a fear, but since then it has been confirmed. Will Fuller, torn ACL, out for the season. So what does this mean for the Texans? What does it mean for DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson owners? Give us your take here, Lando.
This is going to be a blow to the Houston offense. We've been concerned with the volume of Deshaun Watson, and actually this past week it was the fewest attempts. He only had 20 attempts, but he had 5 touchdowns. That's absolutely insane. This is what we feared early in the offseason. His efficiency was unsustainable, except he's a superstar, and it's Deshaun Watson, and he could throw 5 touchdowns on 20 attempts. And but without Will Fuller, I don't think it's going to be as easy. Kiki QT is going to be a popular ad this week on your waiver wire. He was just dropped by everyone because he was out this week, but he's going to be added by everyone, probably the first or second ad of the week on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Flipping over to Bears camp, Allen Robinson remains sidelined with a groin injury. This is a guy that I've been tilting on, if you want to call it. Very frustrating time to own Allen Robinson. I spent up and got him in the 5th or 6th round. I can't remember, but it was somewhere in there. And I just thought, in an offense that could be really good, and in the last couple weeks, Mitch Trubisky has come alive and actually made a lot of these guys a lot more fantasy relevant than we probably gave them credit for, but one of them has not been Allen Robinson. And so I don't even want to say his name. Allen Robinson he's given you 1 or 2 decent games, but nothing good, nothing to write home about. And he really has let you down a ton, especially if you're counting on him as a wide receiver 2/3. And so I've been debating even dropping Allen Robinson, because even if you look at the guys on his team that could give you a better game, I mean, if you picked up Taylor Gabriel earlier in the year, you're ahead if you had Gabriel over Robinson, which I have at times. So I don't know. Do you think I'm crazy for thinking that Allen Robinson is droppable?
It's tough, man. Taylor Gabriel, absolutely. Anthony Miller, great breakout rookie. I think he's more stashable right now than Allen Robinson. It's tough. Last week, the Patriots do one thing well, and we know that is they take away their best option.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they didn't realize that was Trey Burton. It wasn't Allen Robinson.
Yeah,
so,
no kidding.
They misplayed on that one, but it's tough, man. It's frustrating. I don't really own Allen anywhere, but I get your frustration.
Yeah, I feel like I was lulled into drafting him, just hoping and praying that 1,400-yard, 14-touchdown season with Bortles and company wasn't a mirage, and it could be a sign of things to come or potential ceilings. But
we talked about him a lot this offseason.
Yeah.
It's too bad that he's a disappointment. He's a dud this week.
Making me look like a chump, Allen. Figure it out.
That's all right.
Anyways, I'm going to jump over to my boys in Green Bay. We've got some changes happening in the roster. Randall Cobb is back and expected to play in Week 8, and following suit looks to be Geronimo Allison as well. He's been limited at practice, but there's been a lot of writing from beat reporters in Green Bay that Allison will suit up this week. So a lot of people are saying, will they play him? I think in a marquee matchup against the undefeated Los Angeles Rams that they're going to need Geronimo to play.
That's gonna be interesting. So your Valdez-Scantling shares should be on the waiver wire.
I don't know, man. Like, I feel like moving forward, we're gonna see a lot more Equanimous Brown and even Valdez-Scantling. You know, I think they've both made an impact. They might actually take away from Cobb and Allison's snap shares. They might not be on the field as much, like 80-90%. We might not need to see that. It might be down into the 60s, 70s, which doesn't really hurt their ceilings, I don't think, but they could use them maybe a little bit more effectively. So it's an interesting situation in Green Bay, but I think if Allison plays, he is almost a must start for me. I love the matchup. I think it's going to be a shootout game. The Packers have the ability to hang 30 points on the Rams.
That's going to be a fun game to watch. Absolutely.
It's going to be great. Rob Gronkowski returned to practice this week. Sony Michel did not. So taking a quick peek into Patriots camp, nice to see Gronk back on the field, but I don't really know if I can confidently start Gronk this week. And what do you think?
That's a really tough one because they play on Monday night. So unless you have Charles Clay, it's hard to pivot off of that.
Right.
I'm trying to monitor as best I can. I've got Watson right now at tight end instead of Gronk. So I don't know what to do myself. It's a really tough scenario. What do you think about Jack Doyle? He was upgraded to fully healthy, practiced fully on Friday. With Andrew Luck throwing as much as he is he a guy that you're willing to start instead of Gronk? How would you rank, say, those three tight ends right now for this week?
Uh, Eric Ebron's been so darn good. I don't know how you can start Jack Doyle in the same company. It doesn't make sense to me.
But as a Gronk owner, you don't have much of a choice potentially. I mean, last week he was ruled out, so you probably have a guy that you started. Whether it's probably Watson or someone else or Uzama, you probably start those guys over Gronk then, just because you're concerned about his health.
As of right now, I'm concerned about his health. I mean, if he plays, I think he'll give you a decent game. But on the other side of the fence, just I don't want to talk myself out of playing Gronk because we know what he is and what he has been. But we've also seen Gronk used as more of like a decoy, right? Like they'll put him in to draw coverage, or they'll put him in to do some pass blocking, run blocking, and so he might be used, but not in the capacity that you want him to be used. So I don't know. I'm monitoring closely. I don't want it to come down to Monday night and I need 5 or 6 points out of Gronk to get a W, and then he doesn't play. And I don't think on the opposite end, the point you made with Charles Clay, it would be great to have him as sort of like a secondary option or play, but I don't think I'm getting 5 or 6 out of Charles Clay. Not with the current setup that Buffalo's got going on.
Oh man, what a mess. So I don't know what. We'll monitor the situation as much as possible. We'll tweet out if any news comes up on Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning. So keep monitoring that situation. That's all I guess we can say so far, right?
It's a little gross. Hopefully some news breaks today.
I'm probably going to lose and go to 4-4 in our Gridiron League because of this mess we have, this bye week, Gronk, everything.
Hey, your name is the Big Gronkowski. You got to go down with the ship.
I'm going down with the ship, absolutely.
It's time for the DFS DraftKings Stack Attack.
All right, some DraftKings GPP, some tournament plays we've got going for you. Now, when you go to DraftKings, there are two types of contests. There are your cash tournaments, which are typically lower entry numbers. So, sometimes you're looking even 5, 10, 100, 200 players. And then when you get into your tournaments, you're looking at thousands or hundreds of thousands of players. And so the way that you pick players becomes a little bit different. In cash, you're going with more of the safer plays because sometimes you just have to beat a certain number of people, or it's a head-to-head contest. So you're looking for the safest, most reliable guys that you can build into a lineup. Whereas in tournament, you're looking for more of a risky play, because in tournaments, really, you need to come within the top 0.5% to get paid out big time. And that's what we're here to do. We're trying to win that big money. So in tournaments, you got to get a little risky. You got to try to get those roster savings. And that's what we're going to try to do for you today.
Absolutely. And this kind of strategy, it confused me a little bit before. I always played tournaments, but I didn't really know I played tournaments. Mm-hmm. Like the Millionaire Maker, the $3 play action.
The play action, yes.
Gets 100K. Those are great. At 50-50s, if you just want to make some quick cash, 50-50s are great too, where you can just if you finish in the top half of the slate, you get your money back, and or you double up. And so it's interesting. So we're talking just tournament plays, high end, high payout.
Yeah. And the reason why we're doing this episode at this point in the season is maybe some of you are, I hope not 0-7, but for my friend Taylor of Two Worlds, who might be 0-7 in 2 leagues. If you're 0-7, 1-6, 2-5, and you've completely given up on the season, you don't feel like making any moves will help your position in your leagues, trade deadlines are approaching and you're just not into it, you want to just sort of tune out of fantasy football, this is a great way to stay involved. And guess what? There's no standings. You get a new slate every single week. You get to start fresh. You get to give your hand another go. And so maybe this is the episode that you need to listen to get re-energized, refocused, and stay involved with fantasy football, because this is the time in the season where you need to be tuned in, and it's really hard to do so sometimes when your fantasy teams are letting you down. So I think if you can stay involved and do it through DFS at least, that's better than nothing, and you can win some cash along the way.
Absolutely. And if you weren't one of those teams with the first overall pick, you get Todd Gurley.
You can go get, exactly.
And it's one of this year is weird because there really isn't that many first round busts, but there are a couple, and that really hurts you. It's Le'Veon Bell and it's Leonard Fournette.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not your fault if you drafted them first because they were both great picks, obviously. And if you got the first pick, you're going to win your league. Like, Todd Gurley is an absolute machine and he's scoring 3 touchdowns a game.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take a skilled fantasy player to pick him first overall. Right. So we're trying to get you some skill with GPPs here. And yeah, like exactly what you said. You said it perfectly, Mackenzie. Keep you interested in football and keep winning some cash, and forget about those stupid seasonal plays.
So let's jump into the quarterback position. I'm going to kick things off with a guy that I am surprisingly going to spend up for this week. The Aaron Rodgers of the world, and Patrick Mahomes are going for about $7,000. I'm going to dip just below the high end, and I'm going to go with Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle himself, at $6,100. This matchup for Dalton is juicy. It's in non-prime time, because we know what Andy Dalton does in primetime matchups. He folds like a cheap tent from Walmart. So in a matchup against the Bucks, I'm looking to start Andy Dalton in as many places as I can. Bucks are allowing the most yards per game at 449, as well as the most passing yards per game at 364. So with Andy Dalton going up against a very porous pass defense and overall defense, having Joe Mixon, having AJ Green, having Tyler Boyd, even CJ Uzama, I just love the weapons he has, the situation he's been put in. I think he's going to have himself a great day, and I could see him winning me some big money this week. And I don't really have to pay up too much for him. I mean, $6,100 is typically where I like to go, somewhere between the low 5,000s and the low 6,000s. I rarely spend up for that top-end quarterback. I feel like Mahomes could be a decent play, but for the savings, which I'd like to put elsewhere, I'm going Dalton.
That's a great play, great call, paying down at the quarterback position. I think a lot of savvy DFS players rarely pay up. It's tough going with Aaron Rodgers at 6,400.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck at 63. His pricing has skyrocketed just over pure volume. But just like you, I'm going down. Here are some guys that I'm playing in tournaments. I got Big Ben, Alex Smith. Ugh, that's gross. I know. Matt Stafford, who I love this week. Case Keenum, and that's a kind of a gross pick too. And Jared Goff. Those are all guys that I'm playing in tournaments. Big Ben, I think, is best for cash. He's safe. He's going up against Cleveland this week at home. Cleveland ranks near the top of for pass defense, but I think that's more of a mirage. I think this is a get back, get right game for Pittsburgh. Then they're going to come back and forget about that tie that happened in week 1. They're going to absolutely destroy the Cleveland Browns. I don't think it's going to be close. It's a get right game. I think Antonio Brown's a great play. Big Ben, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner, all that game. It's a great play on really the Pittsburgh, and we'll talk a little bit about some Cleveland players later on. But I would say the only other one I maybe want to talk about is Case Keenum.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get boat raced by Kansas City, and I think that's a great game script for Case Keenum and that Denver offense. It's not going to be like last week where their defense scores 32 points. It's going to be a tough game for both defenses, and I think he's just going to throw a ton. He's got lots of weapons with Royce Freeman out. He's got Phillip Lindsay in the backfield, Devontae Booker, right? Devontae Booker in the backfield, and they're just going to catch a lot. Cortland Sanders has had a great season, and Demaryius Thomas might get traded, so they might want to showcase DT a little bit. So
interesting.
I think Case is a sneaky play. It doesn't feel great, but it lets you pay up at other positions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole point. We talk about in seasonal plays, in regular fantasy formats, where you want to try to find those streamers every single week. You don't want to go ahead and spend early round draft capital on an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson, or in this case, a Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, we want to find other options later in the rounds that will give us about the same production if we can play them off in good matchups week to week. And so one guy, funny enough, that is typically drafted at the top of the class, I'm going to go with as a pivot play for me. If you are in a situation where you have almost the perfect lineup and Andy Dalton's your quarterback, you followed my advice, but you need somebody else who might give you just as good of a chance to have a great week, but you need to save a couple $100, I'm going to go with Cam Newton at $5,800. Cam Newton's been one of the best fantasy quarterbacks this year, no doubt. And I feel like this week a lot of people are going to fade him because he's going up against the Baltimore Ravens, who have been nothing but stingy on the defensive side of the ball. But what I really, really like about Newton is he's been efficient. 11 touchdowns, 4 picks, has been pretty good with the ball. And when Carolina gets down into the red zone, especially within the 5 or 10 yard line, Cam Newton has a tendency to call his own number a lot of the time. And so being 6'6", big body, pretty inclined to run, he's tough to stop when he gets moving. And he just gives you a high baseline with really, really good potential and a high ceiling. So if you need to save a couple $100 off Dalton, go with Cam Newton. I think that he'll give you a better game than a lot of people give him credit for, and that's maybe why he's worth owning, because a lot of people will not have him in their lineups this week.
Absolutely right. That's a great play. I think he's going to be very low owned this week.
Mm-hmm. Lando, you want to jump into the wide receivers here?
I've got lots of wide receivers.
Yeah, you got the laundry list here.
So if Tyreek Hill is the highest wide receiver on the slate, but I would not, and typically people don't go with the highest paid wide receiver. So if you want to get a low owned guy, Tyreek Hill is up there at 8,600, but you have so many good options right below. Antonio Brown, the best receiver in the league, at 8,500 against what's supposedly a good Cleveland defense. I told you earlier that I do like him, but there's even more at more savings. You have AJ Green, you have Odell Beckham, Juju Smith-Schuster, Brandon Cooks, and Robert Woods are both great plays under 7K. But so my highest price players that I love, I would go AB, Green, Evans, and then lower end. If you want to really get down and dirty, I'm talking Larry Fitzgerald.
Wow.
Absolutely. Chris Godwin. I love Chris Godwin this week at $4,500 in a high over-under game against Cincinnati. I think it's going to be a great play. He's only $4,500. Larry Fitz is $4,400. And Sammy Watkins, again, another high over-under game, is only $4,600. And those are players where you can save your cash. They project to be in a high-scoring game, and they're not the first options on their team. But if they get a long touchdown, that's where you win the big money.
Absolutely. I'm similarly to you. I like to look for value. I look to guys that could have wide receiver 1 weeks without paying wide receiver 1 price. And so I'm drawn to Tyler Boyd And you know that I love to stack my players. So if I'm going to go with Andy Dalton, I'm most likely going to have Tyler Boyd, especially over AJ Green, just to save myself, $1,000 or so. If I'm going to spend up at the position, I'm not going top of the slate here. I'm going to go with Devontae Adams at 7,900. Like I said earlier, I think this game between the Rams and the Packers could be an absolute shootout. And so I'm going to go with Adams, who's been nothing short of amazing this year. Seems to just get it done in every single matchup, much like his quarterback Aaron Rodgers, very much so matchup proof. And the Rams secondary has seen some injuries. And so I think there's some holes in that secondary, and Devontae Adams can no doubt exploit. If you want to get dirty, which I know you do, you already did.
Oh, yeah, I do.
I'm going to go with Martavis Bryant at $3,700 with the absence.
Oh, that is way cheaper than my guys.
Yeah, I mean, Larry Fitzgerald at 4,400 is gross and a great value play. I'm going to get greasier than that. Martavis at $3,700 allows you to do a lot of other things at other spots, which is kind of what we're looking to do. And I think with the absence of Amari Cooper now, and it's going to be Martavis Bryant lining up as the number 2, Jordy as the 1, we assume. I think Martavis has the opportunity to have a much bigger game than what you would expect out of a $3,700 player. And if he gives you a score, that could be enough to push your team over the top and get you some bigger money. So it's a flyer play. It really is a boom or bust play, but that's what we're here to do. I mean, you don't get, what do you want to make, $5 or $5,000? I want the
You're
money.
absolutely right.
And I'm not sure too many people are going to be on him. So he allows you at the price. He gives you some really good upside, especially with the situation, but he gives you flexibility to spend dollars elsewhere, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here.
You're absolutely right. Other wide receivers that caught my eye that I have in other tournament plays, I've got T.Y. Hilton, Jordy Nelson, similar idea as you, Golden Tate, Doug Baldwin. I'm playing Brandon Cooks. I'm playing Marvin Jones Jr., Shepard, and Kenny Golladay. All of those guys I'm playing on my slates.
Yeah, I've got Kenny Golladay in my millionaire maker, and I'm excited about him this week. I think he's going to have himself another beautiful day.
I think you're right. So at the running back position, is it too easy this week? I think everyone and their mom and grandma are playing the exact same players.
Yeah, Todd Gurley.
Who do you think? Todd Gurley. Because if you didn't play him, you lost. Unless you played Marlon Mack. But either way, if you played Mack last week and Todd Gurley, you won money. Easy. Yeah. It's easy money.
I pivoted away from the big boys and I went Marlon Mack and Kerryon Johnson, who were both fine plays. But when it came down to comparing against the top lineups, I wasn't that close, because what those running backs gave you at the high end, even though I was getting 22 out of Kerryon, almost 30 out of Mack, when you get other running backs giving you 40, it's tough to make up those points elsewhere. So sometimes you have to take the absolute chalk play, and in this case, this week it is Gurley, but he costs you what, $9,800?
Yep, he's sub 10K, which is good. That's what you want. And you can make rosters around him. And then the other guy I would say is going to be chalk this week is James Conner.
Mm-hmm.
That's a projected high over under. No one's scared of the Cleveland defense. It's a get back game. Le'Veon Bell is nowhere to be found. And those two guys are going to be both highly, highly owned. If you want chalk, I feel like you almost need them. If they're going to go off, you got to have some percentage. If you're playing a couple lineups, get those guys in your lineups in a couple, and then pivot in a couple other places.
I'm more inclined to go with James Conner there, just for the savings. DraftKings I don't think they have him priced appropriately. He's got another game with a fully green light with no Le'Veon Bell in the building. Pittsburgh's coming up. They just came off their bye, and this was sort of when we thought Le'Veon Bell would return to camp, and he's still not there. So I guess we're looking at the Week 10 comeback for Le'Veon Bell. So James Conner's still got some time, and that's what, $7,500.
Absolutely. I think he's a bargain compared to what Gurley costs.
Absolutely. I'm actually taking the opposite approach of you. I mean, you're going high end, middle end.
Yeah. Let's pivot. We got to give some other options here.
We're gonna give some other options, and as much as I would love to have Gurley in my lineup, I think that I can get sort of the same production or very close to with a guy a little bit less expensive. I love the James Conner play. That's a great way to pivot. I think you could go Kareem Hunt too. You talked about this matchup being juicy and good for fantasy, and I think Kareem Hunt is no exception to that rule, especially if you look back to last week in the Sunday night game. He was just ridiculous. What do we call him? Like the human video game machine.
Yep.
3 touchdowns, 2 in the air, 1 on the ground. Guy was ridiculous. He only cost you $7,100. So I think when you look at him and what he's able to do for that offense, and in such a nice matchup, I think he's your moneymaker if you want to, get a little bit of a poor man's Todd Gurley, if you want to call him that. I'm going to go way down, scrape the bottom of the barrel. It's not a sexy play. It's not a guy that you like, but Jordan Howard at $4,800 might be a really good play against a New York Jets run defense that allows 122 yards a game. And other reasons other than the matchup itself, but many people will probably pick Cohen over Howard, even though Cohen costs $1,000 more at $5,800. I'm probably going to go Howard. A lot of people will go Cohen over Howard, but they might, in the same price range within the low to high 4,000s, they might go with other guys like Nick Chubb, Adrian Peterson, Alex Collins. So I think he'll be low owned, and I think he has a good matchup and a really good chance to maybe break one off for a touchdown or score in the red zone, because they should be there often. So with a potential high scoring game, I think Jordan Howard could be very relevant. And at $4,800, all you really need him to do is give you like 50 yards and a score. So, I'm looking towards Jordan Howard and Kareem Hunt to get the job done for me this week.
I love that play. I know everyone's scared of Jordan Howard. I lost my matchup last week because I sat Jordan Howard. So this is a great play. If it's a risky play, but that's what we're talking about in tournaments, right?
Absolutely.
So, other cheap plays that are going to be popular. So they're going to be fairly highly owned, but you kind of need them. If they go off, you need them in your lineup to afford these big guys. So I'm talking Isaiah Crowell with Powell going down for the season. Chris Carson has a good matchup. Raheem Mostert, he's almost a must start.
Yeah.
We got Jalen Richard and Adrian Peterson. All those guys are cheap plays, and if you pick the one to go off, that's what's going to win you the week. Carson's 4,300, Richard 4,200. Let's see what else.
Crowell, 37?
Yeah. Crowell's is 37. And
If you're spending up on Gurley, you might have to go Crowell.
Exactly. And that's a great play, really, because Crowell's going to have the backfield to himself, but he's going to get up against Chicago. They haven't given up a rushing touchdown all season, so he might not be a popular ad, but if he gets that touchdown, that's what you need to afford the big guys.
Agreed. I'm going to go at the tight end position. I'm considering spending up this week, grabbing Travis Kelce at $6,800. Now, he's in the same price range as guys like Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks, 2 guys that could have really, really big outings. But if you want to stick with the Chiefs, Hunt and Kelce could both be huge performers. And I actually like Travis Kelce over a lot of other wide receiver options this week. So if I'm going to grab some of those cheaper, lower owned wide receivers and almost treat Travis Kelce as a wide receiver, I like the play. There's no Gronk on the slate this week. There's no Zach Ertz on the slate this week. So Travis Kelce is the absolute rock chalk pick, but he's going to cost you almost $7,000. So he probably won't be picked just because of his price point. If you don't really feel comfortable spending up $6,800 for a tight end, you can go down to just below $4,000, $3,900 for OJ Howard The Bucks find themselves in a very nice matchup. What was I going to say? Oh, it's Cincy, right?
Yeah, Cincinnati, yep.
So Cincy is 4th worst in the entire league against the tight end, allowing 521 yards and 4 touchdowns in the first 7 weeks. So I really like the matchup for OJ Howard. I think the Bucks will be able to put a bunch of points up on the board. This game should be really good for fantasy. And so OJ Howard could be a really nice pivot play if you don't want to spend up for the Travis Kelce's or George Kittles of the world.
Absolutely. I love OJ Howard this week. And actually, those 3 tight ends, sub 4K, are all great picks. Vance McDonald is my pick at 3,700. Again, I'm targeting this Cleveland defense. He's that Travis Kelce archetype. He's that move tight end. He's a very athletic guy. He's getting undervalued in seasonal leagues because he has a boom bust guy. Because Jesse James is in the offense as well, and he gets used occasionally in the red zone. But I think Vance gets the yards. I think he gets a touchdown this week. I like Vance McDonald. And then right below them at 3,500, even cheaper, is Uzama playing in that same Tampa Bay matchup. And Tampa Bay is working hard to be the worst team at every defensive position. And I think this is gonna be the week that they are the 32nd worst or best, however you want to say it. Wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, running back, everyone. They're gonna be what everyone targets each week.
No,
that bodes well for their offense, their it's perfect. Just target Tampa Bay matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. At the defensive position, there's really not a whole lot here this week on the slate, but I'm going to spend down and try to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, it's funny. Some people that I've talked with have said, I'm going to start the Browns because the Browns are second in takeaways this year. Fumbles, interceptions. So this game could go either way, but I'm going to take the Steelers side just because the offense is a whole lot better. And Pittsburgh Steelers in a divisional matchup have the opportunity to, get it done on the defensive end. So I'm going to go Steelers, maybe expose some of these rookies. Baker Mayfield's, tended to look like a rookie at times. They're going to rely on some rookie wide receivers and now running back to get the job done. So I'm going to take experience over youth and go with the Steelers defense at $2,300. Save myself some quiche.
I think that's going to be chalk this week. Steelers are a great play. I absolutely agree with you. At 4,100, the Bears are the obvious pick, right? They're the best defense, or one of the best defense in the league. They're playing up against the New York Jets. I don't blame you if you don't want to spend up on them. My other 2 options, I would say, so the Ravens are playing Carolina. That's a little bit gross. I think Carolina can score on them. I don't even mind the Bengals. I know Tampa Bay is going to throw the ball a lot, but Jameis Winston is not risk adverse. He is very risky.
Yes.
He throws a lot of balls that are 50-50, maybe even towards the defender a little bit more. I think there could be opportunities there for pick sixes. And then finally, the Jets as well, because Trubisky is as good as he's been playing, he also overthrows a lot of players. I think there could be opportunity there for Jets defense to take advantage of some errors on that offense. So it's kind of gross. You're right. It's a tough slate for defenses, but that's kind of where I'm trending right now.
Fantastic. So I think those are some really good high-low end GPP plays for you guys to consider this week. We are going to, in about 10 minutes or so, start a live head-to-head sort of DraftKings lineup contest between Landon and myself, just so you can maybe see how we put together our teams, where we start, how we finish. But we're going to give you our starts of the week in tradition here. So
Starts of the week.
at the quarterback position, I'm going to go Mitch Trubisky. And And these are starts of the week for your redraft, for your regular fantasy leagues. We're not talking any DraftKings stuff here. We're going to just sort of take a pause on that. But I'm going to go Mitch Trubisky. This guy's been great, man. Last 3 fantasy outings, 55 points, 32 points, 33 points. Very, very solid performances, throwing for 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But what's really impressed me the most about Trubisky is his ability to get it done on the ground, 181 rushing yards in the last 3 games.
Yeah, I love that pick, Mac. I think his work on the ground really puts him over and above some of these other quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I am going with Matt Stafford against Seattle.
I don't blame
a lot
you.
A lot of people are afraid of that Seattle defense. I haven't been all season long. His attempts are down a little bit, so that kind of might scare you off him. But early on, he had 46, 53 attempts this season. That's what we want out of our quarterback. He's got one of the best arms in the league and so many weapons. I think Seattle's going to score as well after a bye week. Their run game is good. Doug Baldwin will be back scoring fantasy points for you. Tyler Lockett's had a great season. Sorry, and I think this is just going to be a good game. It's going to be a sneaky kind of bonanza play. I think despite the other games having a higher over-under, I think this is going to go over the projected Vegas number.
You very well could.
48.5, I think is what it is.
I hope it does, because Fraze and Jess are on their way there to watch the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At the running back position, I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert. Last 2 games, 19 carries for 146 yards, with Burita trending out and Morris just being completely hot trash. I think that Raheem Mostert is a must start this week if you own him. I'm starting him in a couple leagues just because I have Melvin Gordon and a couple other guys on bye, and I'm looking elsewhere to sort of fill some needs and some voids. So Raheem Mostert, if you picked him up this week on waivers, good for you. I would start him with confidence.
Cool. I like that play. My guy is in the same matchup as Matt Stafford, and that is Chris Carson. Now, the only thing people might not like about it is that Detroit just acquired a run stopper defender, Snacks they call him, but I'm not that concerned about it. It might be a little bit of a downgrade for Chris Carson, but we know that Seattle has a need to run the ball. They're a run-first team now, which has been hurting Russell Wilson a lot this season.
Yeah.
I think he's just going to get the volume with a lot of guys on bye like Melvin and some injuries happening. I just want to give you the confidence to start Chris Carson in this matchup.
Mm-hmm. At the wide receiver position, I'm going to go back to my boys in Green Bay. And you remember, I'm allowed to pick Green Bay players from now on because I
Right.
called Valdez-Scantling on his little breakout performance. So you said that when I picked Valdez-Scantling, if he doesn't work out, you're not allowed to pick any more Green Bay players. But he did. He was a wide receiver 1 that week. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to say if Geronimo Allison plays, he's going to be worth every single penny in either DraftKings or in your lineup in your regular fantasy season. So he's been out 4 weeks with a concussion and a hamstring issue. I know that it might not be the most comfortable play, but if you can get over that and realize what he has been for this offense, and realize the chemistry that he's had with Rodgers, I think Rodgers is going to be really happy to get Cobb and Allison back on the field. And in a game where they kind of really need to win in order to establish some legitimacy in the league and get position back in their conference, their division, with how competitive it is, they're going to lean on guys like Allison to get the job done. So I love Geronimo Allison this week in both DK and in regular leagues.
I love that play. I can't wait to watch that game.
It's going to be amazing.
It's an absolute shootout for sure. And if Green Bay upsets this record, that's going to be huge for that team.
I need to make up some ground on the top guys in my Pick'em League at work, and Green Bay is on my ticket.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
So My wide receiver start of the week is a guy that let you down last week in primetime. But like you said earlier, what we know about Andy Dalton is that he crumbles in primetime.
Oh.
So mix into a great matchup. We're targeting the Tampa Bay defense, and I'm going to start Tyler Boyd.
Yes.
Be confident. Keep him in your lineup. It's too good of a matchup. I think it's going to be a shootout. Just start your Tyler Boyd. It shouldn't be a question.
Mm-hmm.
If it is after last week's performance and everyone saw him live on TV, just go away or trade for Tyler Boyd. I think it's a great call.
We got a little bit too overzealous with Tyler Boyd, just thinking that he's going to give us 20, 25 points a game after being so hot. But what you have to realize with him is you picked him up off the waiver wire in most cases. So he's allowed to have a bad game or two, but really it wasn't his fault. Like you alluded to, it was Andy Dalton and him sort of cracking under the pressure. So I love that play. Tyler Boyd, for me, is a guy that I've been really high on. I actually traded in a league. I got top value for him. And so if you still have him on your team, play him, plug him in, absolute confidence. I think he's going to have a great game.
Sure. So who's your tight end start of the week, Mac?
I'm going Trey Burton. I think this matchup, simply put, is just too good. And Trey Burton has been involved in the red zone a ton this year. I think the trend continues this week. Chicago's gonna get the job done. I could see a lot of points going up on the board, and Trey Burton being a huge reason as to why the Bears get a W this week.
Absolutely, I like that play too. Asking for a friend, do you like Burton over Evan Ingram this week?
I do.
So Evan Ingram is my start of the week, and it's more of a confidence play as well. The Giants' defense is getting worse. They just traded away one of their best assets. I think they're going for the first overall pick again, and
they might be.
Like we talked about it. So they picked Saquon Barkley second overall, and everyone's complaining that they did that. But if they get a quarterback with the first pick or second pick this year, hey, that's perfect. And then it all makes sense. And with their defense struggling, their offensive pieces are going to get better. They're going to get more fantasy production. Eli Manning will have no choice but to pass the football, and I think that's going to benefit Evan Ingram. He's getting slowly worked into the offense, but what we saw in game is his first game back is that his hands are still good, his routes are still good, and he is involved. So I think it's a bounce back game for him, and yeah, I like Evan Ingram. He should get the yards, and the touchdown is the only concern for Ingram.
Yeah. All right, man. Here we go. The head-to-head, the marquee matchup. We're going to jump into the DraftKings $1.25 million play action, $100,000 to first. It's a $3 contest. Would be considered a GPP. You don't have to spend $20 entry fee like the Millionaire Maker, but it is a nice contest to get yourself some cash in. So Landon and I are going to be competing within this. And what do you want to do as the metric to judge for a win? Is it money earned or final placing?
We will go, money earned in this matchup. Let's do a little side game. We cannot pick the same player in our slate, so there won't be any repeats.
Okay. How do you want to determine first pick?
You can have it.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know if I like that. I kind of wanted to start somewhere else. So we're allowed to go anywhere within the lineup, right? Like we don't have to start with QB.
So
we can go.
You can start wherever you want. So wherever you start, I'm gonna start.
Okay.
So if you start at running back, I'm gonna pick a running back. If you start at wide receiver, I will pick a wide receiver.
So we don't. Are you saying that if I go running back, you have to go running back?
Yep.
Oh, I was just gonna say you can go wherever.
Okay, yeah, whatever works. Yeah, I can go wherever.
I think free range.
Works.
You can go wherever you want.
Yeah, let's give the listeners a chance of where we like to start, and if you like to start somewhere different than me, we'll figure that out as we go.
Okay. Man, I think I'm gonna start at the quarterback position here. You might have talked me into Jared Goff. Not too certain. I'm going to take my own advice this week. I love the matchup with Cincinnati so much, but just spending down for a guy that I could really like, I'm going to go Cam Newton.
He has such good baseline with his running. I think they're going to get more and more aggressive as the season goes on, and I think that's a good pick.
Yeah.
So I am going to go running back. That's generally where I like to start. I am not going to go Todd Gurley. I have a lot of shares of him, and I loved your argument for Kareem Hunt. I'm going to take your guy.
You rascal.
Go Kareem Hunt.
Unbelievable. You know what? It's not a bad... I don't mind that you did that. Because I didn't take Andy Dalton, in the lineups this week that I've taken Andy Dalton, I've had a tendency to go with Tyler Boyd as well. And that really doesn't allow me to go Joe Mixon because I'm sort of putting too much stock into one game. But if for whatever reason Joe Mixon has the big game on the ground, and it doesn't happen through Andy Dalton in the air, in this lineup, because I've already gone Cam Newton, I think I'm going to go with Joe Mixon as my running back one at $7,300. So that's where I think I'm going to go.
Mixon? Yeah, that's a great play. I like that a lot. I'm going to go with a pretty chalky play at wide receiver at our second spot, and that's going to be Robert Woods. I've got Brandon Cooks in a lot of places, but Robert Woods is $100 cheaper. I think it's just a locked and loaded great play this week. And I might have to stack him with Jared Goff a little bit later if my salary lets me do it.
Before you beat me to it, I'm going tight end with OJ Howard, $3,900.
I like that a lot. I'm going to skip to defense. I like to do it a little bit early just so I can get cheap and then I know my kind of remaining salary. And I'm just going to go with the chalk play this week. I'm going Steelers at 2,300. And
you know what's funny? I thought about starting this draft by taking the Steelers.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, that's terrible. That's typically what I do, though, when I'm making my lineups. I actually start with defense and spend try to spend the lowest amount that I can and then go from there.
Yep.
Hate you for that.
I'm getting you in this one, man.
I was gonna go maybe one or two more players and then rip down there. Wow. Well, you've taken those. I don't think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna browse through the wide receiver section right here. We didn't talk about Mike Evans in a really decent matchup as well. I mean, I already have OJ Howard. I don't want to go with Mike Evans, but he could be a really good play too this week.
If you could go with a tri-stack. I know you've already picked your quarterback, but with Winston, Howard, and Evans, I like that play too.
Yeah.
And that's a play for tournaments only. I wouldn't do that cash, but
Correct.
Game stacking has paid off in previous years. It hasn't really done much this year per se. So that kind of trend is kind of losing its shine, but I think it's still decent if you get the bonanza right and all the fantasy guys go off.
So at this point in the draft, I'm looking at my remaining salary, $33,000 left, which gives me $5,500 per player. So at this point, I'd like to maybe browse the lower end and see maybe where I could spend some money on a lower end rated price guy to save myself some money. And I'm going to take my advice from earlier. I'm going to go with Martavis Bryant at $3,700. It's not sexy, but it jumps my average pick up from $5,500 to $5,900. So now I've got a little bit more room going forward if I want to maybe spend up for some studs.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go to the tight end position and spend down again. Exactly the same strategy as you. I'm going to try to leave as much salary as I can for my last picks. And really then I can decide on the stud that I really want. So I'm going to go with Uzama. Again, targeting Tampa Bay. That's what we got to do. It might be chalk again, but there's going to be there's a few chalk plays, and that's just going to be one. I don't really have much shares of Uzama this week, so this is where I'm getting that share.
Tampa Bay is the worst team at defending a lot of things, but the tight end, they are the worst team against the tight end so far this year through 7 weeks. So I think, that's a nice play. I don't mind it. I'm going to spend up at the defensive position just a little bit. I mean, not to the point of $4,100 for the Bears, but I'm going to go with the Redskins. I think this defense is legit, man.
I like that play.
The Giants have struggled. They could probably lock Saquon up under 100 yards, I think, is quite possible. And we get to see that Josh Norman, Odell Beckham Jr. matchup, and we know that Norman can get under Odell Beckham's skin. So, man, I think we're going Redskins, $2,700.
And they're just gonna sack Eli so much.
Right.
That's a good call.
Because Eli looks like he's throwing a ball in quicksand. He can't move fast enough to avoid any sort of pressure.
Yeah. So I'm trying to go with a wide receiver position, but I'm torn on what to do. There's guys that I have shares of already, like T.Y. Hilton, Juju Smith-Schuster, all that I like. I can't really decide where I want to go with this one. Man, Geronimo wouldn't be too bad of a play either.
Oh, you're going to steal another one of my picks, guy?
I don't think I like your argument to that, but I think I'm going to go with I wanted Juju. I think I like Juju this week. I'm going to get Juju Smith-Schuster in my lineup.
It's a good pick, man. I have him in a lot of lineups.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal one of your plays. I'm going to spend down at the running back position because I've already got, my stud in Joe Mixon. I'm going to spend down and grab Chris Carson at $4,300 in a good matchup against Detroit.
Yeah, I'm going to look to spend down too at that position. I got to figure out where I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert.
No.
I'm going with your guy too. You took one of my. I'm gonna go low.
Yeah.
Low on that end too.
Golly. All right. Well, I've got $7,433 per player left for my 2 wide receivers in my flex. So I've got some comfort here. I can spend money where I want to. Just looking here, I mean, I know I said I love Devontae Adams at $7,900. I think that's probably where I'm gonna go here. Just seeing as I have the money to spend up. Yeah, I'm gonna go Devontae, $7,900. I think he's really just gonna be great this week. I have no reservations starting him against the Rams. Quote unquote, really great elite defense. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams will be able to get the job done.
I like that play a lot too. I'm wondering if I can get Gurley in this lineup right now.
Oh.
But I'll go to my quarterback and I will stack the Robert Woods. I'm gonna go Jared Goff at $6,000 and see if I could make it work. I've got a wide receiver and a flex spot left, so I'm gonna see how I can do it here.
I know I'm browsing through the flex category at the moment, seeing if I can maybe fit one more running back in, and 2 players left, $7,200 per player. I'm gonna go ahead and grab James Conner, $7,500.
Man, I like that play.
The highest owned guy that I could grab. For a running back, because I got Joe Mixon at 73, James Conner at 75, and then I spent down to get Chris Carson. So $6,900 left. I know who I'm gonna go with.
Okay, so the only thing I could do right now, if I go Gurley in my flex, I could only afford like Chris Conley, a wide receiver, but he's a wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, which you never know with them if you could get a touchdown out of those guys.
Wow.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Wow.
So that might be my last 2 plays, because it's kind of gross down here. So I don't feel good about Chris Conley. I don't know if I can make that work.
Might be too tough, eh?
It might be a little bit tough. So I could go like a Saquon Barkley. Man, oh man, oh man.
I mean, Saquon Barkley's a great option. It's probably not what Todd Gurley's going to give you. Yeah, Gurley's going to give you another Hattie? Another hat trick?
Maybe. And you save $1,000. So the problem is, I mean, you got Chester Rogers. Yeah, that might be the play. I'll try Saquon in the flex position. I like his baseline.
Going big.
Yep.
All right, $6,900 left. I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks for my last wide receiver.
Oh, you have such a even playing field there. That's good, nice. Yo, you there?
Yeah. Who are you going with?
Yeah.
Finish it out.
With my last pick, I'm gonna go Chester Rogers against Oakland.
Okay.
$4,200. He's just the volume play with Andrew Luck, I mean, and that's gonna roll out my team. I'm going pretty high end and I'm going pretty low end with that. So
studs and duds, right?
Team Mac.
Hey,
yep.
Yeah, read back to the. Okay, so I got Cam Newton at quarterback, 5,800. James Conner, Joe Mixon, 75, 73. So I'm spending up, above the average for my running backs. Devontae Adams headlines my receivers at $7,900. Then I got Brandon Cooks at 69. But to balance those two out, Martavis Bryant, the low end play of $3,700. We already talked about him earlier in the episode. If you missed that, go back and find it. Tight end position, OJ Howard, flexing Chris Carson, and going Redskins defense. So I have spent the full $50,000.
Nice. So my quarterback is Jared Goff. I have Kareem Hunt at 71 and Raheem Mostert at 3,800. My wide receivers are Chester Rogers, JJ Smith-Schuster, and Robert Woods. My tight end is Uzama. I'm flexing Saquon Barkley, and my defense is the Steelers.
It's gonna be. I like both of our teams, and then sometimes in DFS, when you really like your team, it doesn't work so well. I feel like there has to be this element of grossness that you're just not comfortable with. But it'll be interesting to see. So we're going total money, right?
Total money earned on that slate. Or I guess if we're not in the money, what do we do? Just points?
Yeah, well, no. Well, yeah, points, or you can go finish. I think they'll be the same thing. So
whoever finishes with more points or whatever it is, we'll do a side bet. We'll do a lunch bet. I'm probably coming to see you in a couple weeks, watch some football. So we'll figure it out.
We'll put that on the gram for sure.
That sounds good.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. We hope you enjoyed the episode here with a little bit of a different slate of content for you with some DraftKings and DFS talk. If you guys like that, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a rating if you're already subscribed. It would really, really help us out. We would appreciate your feedback. And we won't be on Sleeper this week. We've got some busy weekends ahead. I've got a baby shower for my sister on Sunday and celebrating my brother-in-law's birthday. So it's a busy week for us. I'll probably be at a bar watching... we're going out for lunch, so I'll probably be at a bar watching some football to stay in the mix, but I won't be able to...
I can jump on Sleeper for a
You're gonna
bit. Maybe
solo show.
Do a half hour, and if you just get a notification on the app, you can do what you can. But I get it. You got obligations. Yeah. I'll jump on Sleeper if I'm around and do it up.
Love it, man. Join our Sleeper channel. You can follow the episode. The link in the episode description if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. So go ahead, get in there, get involved, and we'll see you guys next week. Can't wait for this week of football, man. Rams, Packers. I'm in my glory here.
Let's get it.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Peace. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Saturday Morning Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Mac_SMS and Landon_SMS. Support this independent podcast at patreon.com/Saturday Morning Snack.